Amiga, you know that business idea that keeps you up at night? That course you've been outlining for months, but yet haven't launched? That important conversation you rehearse in your head, but never actually have? Here's the truth that changed everything for me. That feeling of being ready is a myth, a complete illusion. Every successful creator, entrepreneur, and change maker you admire started exactly where you are right now, scared, unprepared, and doubting themselves. The only difference, they took that first shaky step anyway. Today, I'm going to show you why starting messy isn't just okay, but it's actually your secret advantage. And I'll give you the exact framework I use to push past my own fears and finally bring that hustle to heart to life, even when I felt completely unqualified. Let me take you back to where this all began. This podcast had been living in my heart for years. Having a solo show was always a dream. I mean, not necessarily in podcast form, but being over the airwaves where I get to share my thoughts and share a platform to share stories. I mean, I remember driving home and like literally having full-blown conversations with myself and pretending I was the host of my own show. And like I've shared in, previous podcasts that growing up, I have a younger brother, 10 years younger than me, and we would just play together, and he would be my co-host, and I would be the main the main host of my own radio show. I'd practice what I'd say, how I'd say it, imagining different connections with listeners. My brother was so confused. He had no idea who we were talking to, but he is such a trooper. He went with it. And yeah, basically I was talking to listeners I didn't have just yet. And but even when I realized I could technically start my own, very own podcast, when the barriers to entry became lower than ever, right? I mean, it feels like everybody has a podcast now. I still froze. I didn't care. Like all of a sudden, like I was running out of excuses, like, ah. But then, there still was that voice in my head that was constantly saying, who's going to listen to you? You don't know a first thing about audio editing, girl. Like, you haven't taken an editing class in over 2 decades. Your voice doesn't sound like the professional podcasters, Vanessa. What if people think you're trying too hard? Like, all of these thoughts. And the worst one was, what if you pour your heart out and you put all this time and energy into this and nobody cares? But you know what finally happened? One day, I literally ran out of excuses. I got tired of hearing my own inner sabotage, So, I mean, with my hand shaking, my heart racing, with a scrappy landing page that I built myself, very scrappy, just because I kept on putting off my own work, kept on finding excuses, right? But I ran out of excuses, so I had to get scrappy. So I did, and with rough editing, that took me 10 times longer than it should have. The sound quality was crazy. I was all over the mic, so I was in and out. Like, it was just wild. Let's just say it's very DIY, right? But it's all right. I mean, without a fancy setup, no bells and whistles, nada. I just started. And let me tell you that, What nobody talks about is the magic that happens after the first few terrifying episodes. Like, the more I spoke into the mic, the more calm I became. What used to sound super cringy to me, which I'm referring to my own voice, I started to casually love. I mean, I could withstand listening to my voice. There was a one time I couldn't even dare to hear not even a millisecond of my voice. And then comes the technical stuff, right? Well, obviously that felt overwhelming. But and then comes the technical stuff, right? I mean, that felt overwhelming, but then with practice, it felt and became second nature. And because I wasn't just talking anymore, I was, I was seeing things through a different lens. Everything meant more and it meant differently to me. It wasn't just me having a show talking, right? It started that way, but it definitely didn't continue that way. It evolved because I'm at a point where I feel like I am in a phase where I have so much knowledge and information that I've learned, that I've experienced, that I've witnessed, that'll help others, right? So now I'm helping and healing through it all. And then with all of that combined together, growing. And here's the part that still gives me chills, that those early messy episodes are the ones that I almost didn't publish because I really did feel like they were wowzers. Like they were not the type of quality that I want to put out for myself. Okay? Let's just say that. But those are the ones where listeners have shared with me that they feel most connected to me, that they feel like they could relate, and where they actually heard exactly what they needed to hear at that moment. And that's the power of starting before you feel ready. So if you're sitting on a dream right now, telling yourself, I'm not ready, I want you to pause and honestly ask yourself, what exactly will it take for me to feel ready? Because, amiga, that perfect moment may never come. Let's get real about the fears that keep us waiting. First, let's just address the number one, imposter syndrome. That feeling that everyone else knows that what you're doing and you're just pretending. Let's get real about the fears that keep us waiting. Let's address the number one, the biggest one of all, imposter syndrome. That feeling that everyone else knows what they're doing and you're just pretending. I battled this for a very long time. It felt like for many days consecutively, over and over and over. I listened to others with, other entrepreneurs, other creators, other digital marketers with millions of downloads and follows, perfect branding, perfect fancy equipment, a huge following on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn. And I'm like thinking, who am I to even try? I'm like a itty bitty little Nemo in like a huge ocean, Number two is fear of judgment. And that's when we're thinking and worrying about what friends and family and strangers might have to say about our moves, about our posts, about our decisions, about our stance. Will they laugh? Will they take us serious? Will they think we're doing too much? Not enough? I was terrified someone from my past would listen and think, who is she talking about? Who does she think she is? You know, like, kind of like questioning me. Let's talk about let's talk about number 2, fear of judgment. That's when we're worrying and thinking way too much about what our friends, family, and strangers might say. Will they laugh? Will they think that you're doing too much, not enough? I mean, you can cry yourself to sleep just thinking about what happens. Will they laugh? Will they think I'm crazy? Will they start thinking, who does she think she is? All of those thoughts can be categorized under your fear of judgment. And number 3 is perfectionism. This is the sneakiest one, I might say. We tell ourselves we're just preparing thoroughly, but really we're hiding. We're making up excuses for ourselves. I kept researching lighting, podcast equipment, editing tools. Is it better to do it myself, or should I outsource the help, right? I mean, there was a lot of research that I put into rolling this out, and I could have started simply with what I had. But you know what set me free from all of that? I realized something profound, and that is the fear never goes away. You just learn to start anyway. And as Michelle Obama said, you don't have to be fearless. Just don't let fear stop you. And here's the truth. The people whose opinions you worry about, they're too busy worrying about their own dreams to focus on judging yours. And that is the raw truth. Here's what I've learned that changed everything for me. There's actually an advantage to starting messy. Yep, you heard me right. I said it, and I'll say it again. There's actually an advantage to starting messy. When you start polished and perfect, you create a distance. You make it harder for people to see themselves in you, which makes it a lot more difficult for them to feel that you're relatable or that you're easy to connect with. But when you start authentically showing your growth, your struggles, your imperfections, you create connection naturally. You give others permission to start their own journey, and that is the most beautiful piece of all of this. Think about it. When you see someone who seems to have it all figured out, does that inspire you? Or does it make you think, well, they have something special that I don't have. They have A, the money that I don't have. B, the connections that I don't have. C, the network that I don't have. The education that I don't have. The location that I'm not in. I mean, one can literally sit there and come up with excuses for days. But when you see someone figuring it out in real time, that's when you think, hey man, if they can do it, I can do it too. That's the gift of your messy start. And it becomes a bridge, not a barrier. And here's another truth that keeps me going. There's a reason you've had that same dream in your heart for years. You don't just want that dream. You were assigned that dream. Those are like celestial seeds within us. Pour into that dream. Water it. See it, what blooms. And when that fear and when that fear creeps back in, and it will, okay? It will. That's when the work comes in, okay? Ask yourself, what is the best case scenario? I personally do this. I ask myself this. I close my eyes and I let that vision take over. And this is called visualization. I move into that frequency, and that's when alignment hits. Because here's what happens when you start before you're ready. You learn faster through real experience than through endless preparation. You build momentum that carries you through the hardest of days. You discover strengths you didn't know you had, and you connect with exactly the people who need what only you can offer. So let me give you the exact framework I use whenever I need to start something that scares me, because to this day, this happens. So I've put in place a practice that allows me to calm myself down. Because my anxiety can get me going, let me tell you. But this framework really, really does help me. And I'm going to share it with you, because if it helped me, then I hope it can help you. So step 1, set the minimal viable first step. What does that mean? What's the smallest version of your dream you can start with? For me, it wasn't a perfect podcast, clearly. But it was recording one single episode, recorded on equipment that I already had. Number 2, give yourself a deadline. Not someday or when I feel ready. More like an actual date on your calendar. And tell someone that you are close with about this date to help you and hold you accountable. Step 3, identify and address your specific fears. Now, this is some time where you do a little inner reflection, okay? Write down exactly what scares you. And then you're asking yourself, what's the worst that could realistically happen? And how would I handle that? Step 4, find your starting mantra. Mine was very simple. Mine was, I don't have to be the best. I just have to be brave. Again, I don't have to be the best. I just have to be brave. Find the words that will carry you through the hardest times and the darkest of doubtful days. Step 5, just do the thing. Set aside 30 minutes uninterrupted. Put your phone on airplane mode. Find the words. Step 5, just do the thing. Set aside 30 uninterrupted minutes. Turn off your notifications. As a matter of fact, put your phone on airplane mode. And take that first messy step, knowing that you can refine it later. And I promise you, that first step will feel like jumping off a cliff. And the second will feel like you're learning to fly. So what are you waiting for? This isn't just a podcast episode. I'm going to declare it your very own permission slip to start messy. Start now. Speak with a shaky voice if you have to, but just start. I want to hear what your dream is. I want to see it come to fruition. Send this episode to your favorite dreamer who needs a little nudge. And tag me on Instagram with one action you're taking this week. No matter how small, no matter how messy, because I'll be cheering you on con todo mi corazón. Remember, the world doesn't need your perfect version. It needs your authentic version. Hoy. Stop before you're ready. Don't prepare. Begin. Starting scares us because it feels like leaping into the unknown. But truth is, beginning is the only way to find out what's possible. The Queen, Mel Robbins. Thank you for vibing with me today. Thank you for vibing with me today on Hustle and Heart, friends. Nos vemos next time, amiga. Thank you for vibing with me today on Hustle and Heart. Nos vemos next time, reina. Ciao.